Welcome to the Joyride podcast, where we explore the path to becoming your most authentic self. I'm your host, Rebecca Joy, a self-development coach, human design expert, spiritual enthusiast, and motivational speaker who's absolutely obsessed with personal growth and transformation. On this podcast, I'll be sharing my own journey and insights to help you activate your power, amplify your confidence, and become the most magnetic version of yourself. Each episode delivers actionable strategies, powerful energy shifts, and spiritual wisdom that you can immediately apply to break through any limitations and create lasting change. Whether you're seeking deeper self-understanding, professional growth, or spiritual connection, the Joyride gives you the tools to transform your potential into your new abundant reality. Welcome to the Joyride. Welcome back, everyone. I am so excited to be having Keara on today's episode of the Joyride. I want to give a little bit of information about her before we hop into this episode so you get to know her. So I met Keara a few years ago during the very beginning stages of my coaching business. And I don't even really remember how I came across her Instagram, but I did. And I just loved the content that she was showing, and she was such a bright light, and you could tell that this girl was really going after it. And so you will hear about, just the evolution of her personal growth journey and how she went from being a health coach, being in a long-term relationship in Miami, doing all the things, to living a whole different life now. I don't want to give away any spoilers, but I do want to share some information about her. So she is a mindset coach, a content creator, and the founder of For Better Days Club, which is a global community for women who are done playing small and ready to build a life that actually excites them. She left her corporate job, ended a long-term relationship, moved back in with her parents to reset, and then booked a one-way flight to Bali. Since then, she's built a coaching business from her laptop, traveled across Southeast Asia, and has helped other women step into their next chapter with confidence, clarity, and purpose. Her work is all about identity shifts, self-trust, and showing up as the version of you who doesn't wait anymore for anyone. So when I was listening back on this episode as I was doing the editing, all I could think about was, holy shit, this is such a good episode. This episode is for any woman in their 20s. I do not care what the heck you're going through, whether it's a breakup, you're wanting to better your health, you're looking to navigate entrepreneurship, or just navigate the corporate world. Like, literally, this episode is for every woman in their 20s. That's all that I could think about when I was listening to it. And the beauty of having this space and having people on this space of mine is that it truly is medicine for my soul. Like, you can definitely tell that the both of us are coaches in the way that we share and the insight and wisdom that we give, not only in reflection to one another, but also in reflection to ourselves and our own journeys. And listening back on this episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I really needed to hear this. And I'm so glad that we were able to sit down and have this conversation. Bless her heart. I didn't realize it, but she actually was recording this at 6 a.m. Bali time. I'm like, oh my gosh, what time is it? And she was like, oh, it's 6 a.m., but it's fine because I usually wake up at 7 anyways, and then I just go to Pilates. And I was like, oh my gosh, you are an angel. Thank you for waking up early for me so that we could record this episode. But it truly is probably one of the standouts for me. It just is so raw and it's so real, and I don't want to share too much in this intro, but again, I think for any woman who's navigating any type of difficulty in their 20s, which I for sure had so many difficult times in my 20s, like, I would have loved to listen to an episode like this from women who are, still navigating their 20s, but who have also been through some shit, and, from women who have transformed their lives. So with that being said, let's get right into the episode. But yeah, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a listener. Of course, I would love for you to share this episode with someone if you find that it resonates with you. Share the love, share the wisdom. Feel free to leave a comment down below of your favorite part of the episode. Do not forget to follow this podcast, give it a like, and I love you so much. Let's get into it. Welcome, Keara, to the Joyride podcast. I am so excited to be sharing this space with you today. Keara is a mindset coach, a content creator, the founder of A Better Days Club. She is just a beautiful ball of light. And I'm, first of all, just so happy to see your gorgeous shining face because I've not seen you one-on-one in a few years, ever since our human design reading, which I definitely want to touch upon. But welcome to the Joyride. I am so happy to have you here with me.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and reconnect with you and all of this stuff. It's going to be so fun.
Yes, so I definitely want to take it back because when I met with you a few years ago, it was the start of my coaching journey, and you were living a completely different life. So I would love for you to just like briefly say what you're doing and where you are, and then we're going to take it all the way back.
Awesome. Yeah. So right now I'm in Bali. I had a major pivot in my life. But right now in Bali, I am doing content creation, podcasting. I started my own coaching business where I'm helping other females live the life that they want to live. But when I was with you, when we first met, I was working corporate in a long-term relationship, living my dream life in a Miami high-rise apartment, a life that feels so far away from the life that I live now, but honestly was just literally like 3 years ago, which is insane how much your life can change in such a short period of time. But yeah, huge changes have happened over the last like 3, 4 years.
It is just always so crazy to me how much change we can experience in, 3 months, let alone 3 years. I mean, I know that you can totally relate to this. I'm like, I'm a different Rebecca than I was a month ago. So 3 years ago, I'm just literally a new person.
No, so different. And for example, even here in Bali, I like to say one day in Bali is like a week back at home. Like the amount of stuff that you can experience in a day here, or the amount of change that you can experience in a day here, like your life is just like catapulting you into the next level, into the next version of you every single day, every single week. So yeah, change is great. It's scary, but it's all for the better.
That is amazing. Okay, so tell the audience how old you are right now.
Right now, I'm 27 years old, 27 years young.
That is amazing that how old were you? 24. You decided I'm just going
Yeah,
to change everything about my life.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so let's take it back. So, what came first? Because I know A Better Days Club has been around for quite a while, but I also know that it has really transformed and evolved. So, when did you start that? Did you start that before content creation? Was that the first thing? Were you simultaneously in the corporate world? Like, I want to kind of, go back to the beginning.
Yeah, so I've always been someone who likes to do a lot. I'm always someone who has a lot on their plate and always trying to figure out new things. So basically, I had started, if we go all the way back, in terms of my content creation journey and all of that, I started during COVID. I feel like most people started during COVID. I had just graduated university in 2020, in May of 2020, and I had nothing to do. And my full-time corporate job kept pushing our start date. So I had to figure out something to do with my spare time, and I just started posting online. And then the podcast kind of came around because I can't ever stop talking, and I needed another outlet instead of just doing 15-second trendy viral sounding videos or whatever. And when I moved to Miami in the fall of 2021, I wanted something more. I wanted like another outlet. I wanted to share more, but I wasn't really sure how. And so that's when I created the For Better Days Club. And it really what just started out being just like an outlet to share a little bit more about your mindset, your identity. I was posting like cute little, cute little carousel posts per se, but I didn't know how to like go about doing more and expanding it. So it actually took a backseat for a while. I was juggling corporate podcasting, social media. I started nutrition coaching. I stopped nutrition coaching in Miami also. And then it really has taken off more now that I've been in Bali. So I honestly gave it a break for a good year and a half because I wasn't really sure of the direction I wanted to go into with it. And I didn't want to force something that wasn't aligned with me. I wanted to make sure that whenever I stepped back into the For Better Days Club and that space, it was something that was aligned and something that I actually enjoyed doing, not just was forcing myself to do to add more to my plate.
Totally. And I feel so much resonance with everything that you said. And it's something that I definitely want to come back to and touch upon is the idea of taking space because when you are a creative and an entrepreneur, I'm very similar to you in the sense of well, Instagram and creating content is just not enough. Like, I need another space for me to share and talk and communicate. But then you look up and it's like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing all of these things. And sometimes you need to take a step back and reset and maybe move in with your parents, which we'll talk about, or just almost like giving yourself some breathing room from those passions and from, those creative things that bring you so much light and fulfillment.
Yes, I'm especially someone who burns myself out so much because I always want to do so much. I'm always trying to add new things and try new things and whatever. And taking a step back from that, for example, even when I was doing nutrition coaching, I've always known I've wanted to help people in some sort of capacity, whether it's social media, whether it's coaching or whatever. But even then, when I was doing that, I was like, I needed to take a step back from that because it was good. I was helping people, but it wasn't exactly in the method or in the form that I wanted to. So taking a step back from that business, from the Better Days Club, helped me recenter myself and actually work on myself first before I could, continue pouring from an empty cup because that's what I had been doing back when I was living in Miami.
Totally. I just got chills because I have been in that position multiple times actually, and I don't think it's a conversation that's talked about enough because you can be running your own business or doing something that you genuinely love, but you may not be serving in the ideal way that you want to be serving. For instance, when I first moved to Austin, I was in the corporate world for a whopping 6 months. My soul just knew I was not meant to be there, and I was like I was selling these like small like tools to small businesses basically. And so technically I was helping people, but I felt such a disconnect because I wasn't helping people in the way that I knew that my soul wanted to help people. And then before that, I was a personal trainer. And yes, I was helping people, but I always knew yeah, I'm an okay personal trainer, but I always knew when it came to mindset, I'm like, I'm so much better. Like, I'm so much better at elevating people and empowering them through my words. So I loved that you said that because I think it just is not talked about enough. Like, you can be running your own business and be doing nutrition coaching, but like maybe you started it because, oh, you learned a lot and like you found it to be super useful. But at the end of the day, maybe it's not the thing that you genuinely want to be doing.
Exactly. Yeah. The reason why I started nutrition coaching was because I was going through a whole boatload of issues. For example, I had gotten off birth control, I had gotten off of acne medication, and my whole body just spiraled. And so I did a ton of research. I took classes. I became certified mainly to like just help myself. And then I was like, well, if I can help myself, I can help others. But like we've said, helping others in what capacity? Not in a capacity that I actually enjoyed. And there's that you can definitely feel that disconnect whenever you are in that, whenever you're serving from a place of like almost force, like you can feel a lot more of like the resistance in it. Like it doesn't come as naturally or as excited as it would in your situation and my situation now when we're focusing on like mindset and actually like up leveling people in another way that's more aligned instead of a way that's like okay, like nutrition was great, I learned a lot, I enjoyed it, I healed my whole body, but it wasn't what it's not what you want to do. And like I felt that deep within me even when I was starting out that business, which is crazy with that you push through things that you don't want to do even though your body is signaling to you like don't do this.
Yeah, but I also think that's one of the most beautiful parts that I've experienced in my 20s. When you're focused on serving people and that element of serving comes from this love or this fascination or this newfound knowledge. I was in the same boat. I got off of birth control and I developed cystic acne, and then I went down this whole route of naturopathic healing and all that. And now it's an integral part of what I do. But if I were to only focus on that, I know that I would be unfulfilled. So I think,
Yes.
that's the point of your 20s. It's like be selfish and independent and have this freedom and say, let me explore this, but also knowing when it's time to take a step back or to burn that down so you can start to really pour yourself into the avenues that you know your soul is calling.
No, yes, exactly. I think that's what our 20s are. And everyone's so scared to like take that leap, cross that bridge, try that new thing, but it's okay. I am not ashamed to say that I had that business for less than 8 months. Not ashamed at all. But people are even scared to take that first step of let me just try this thing. And they have this fear in their mind of like, well, what if it doesn't work out? Okay, so what? I learned so much from that. I learned how to start a business. I learned how to heal myself. I learned how to work with others. I learned so much within those 8 months that helped me now. So you don't have to see it as like, oh, well, what if I fail? Failure is not an option. It's just a redirection. It's just a lesson learned. It's just something that you continue to take with you and like upgrade from there. Yeah. So your 20s, I think it's the best time to do anything and everything that you're sort of passionate about and just give it a shot because you never know where it could leave you and the avenues that could like open up for you.
I could not agree more. I saw this meme of Addison Rae the other day, and the first picture was like, oh, she's such a try hard. And then the next picture was her saying, well, at least I'm trying. And I
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
about that, like I have really dealt with perfectionism syndrome for basically my entire life. And I think sometimes I've gotten in my own head of like, people think I'm just trying so hard and I'm working so hard to make this work. And I'm like, well, at least I give a shit. And at least I've taken the time to explore what lights Rebecca up. And so, yeah, maybe I haven't gone viral yet on social media or whatever, but I'm not afraid of trying. And I'm not afraid of maybe looking stupid to the outside people because to me, I'm doing what fulfills me. But I think so many people are so scared to, yes, fail along the way, which, as you just said, is inevitable to get to where we're going to go. But also, they're scared to look stupid.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing is that they don't want to look stupid in front of their peers, their colleagues, or anything like that. And the one thing that I really don't give a shit about what people think about me. I will pull my camera out. I will pull my phone out. I will do whatever. I'll post whatever. I don't care. Because what people see in you is a reflection of themselves. So if they think you look stupid, they think they probably look stupid. It's not what you're doing. And the one thing I always go back to is that no one like a millionaire, this whole thing of like a millionaire is never going to make fun of you for trying to start a business. An actor is never going to make fun of you for trying to start acting. No one who's above you per se is ever going to make fun of you for wanting to start or try something new. It's only the people that are like not necessarily below you, but it's the people who aren't doing anything, the people who are stuck hating, going to their corporate jobs and complaining every single day, like, oh my gosh, my life is horrible. And then they see you trying something. They're the people that are the ones like chirping all the time, and the ones who are making the noise. But at the end of the day, my mom used to say, if they're not paying your bills, if they're not paying your rent, if they're not buying you food or anything like that, who cares what they have to say? And just do whatever it is that you want to do. So those are like the things that I always come back to whenever I'm like, oh, like, what if I look stupid? Who cares? Like, no, they're not paying my bills. Like, I don't care what they have to say about me.
Also, the funny thing is, most of these people wish that they could be you. That's the funny thing, but they would never say it. But
Exactly.
I always think, a few years ago, I made this really strong connection to my purpose and what I'm here to do. And I'm like, listen, not everyone is meant to be in my position. And I'm a change agent for people and I lead the way for people. So if you're choosing to be jealous of me or triggered, that's on you. But like, I know that there are people who come across my page or your page and look at us and think, holy shit, she's really going for it. And I think it's also really powerful to show all of the steps in between. And I think that's something that when I can't even remember how I found you on Instagram, but I think it was in the nutrition coaching phase. But there
Yeah,
was
yeah.
this aura about you of like unapologetic and just posting everything about your life. And as I've watched you grow and evolve and transform, you have done such an incredible job of showing us everything about your life. And there's just like, you give off this, like, I'm as sturdy as like an oak tree. It's like, I feel like nothing can shake you because you're just like, I don't give a shit. I'm just going to post what I want to post. And I love it because I love the rawness. I love the authenticity. And to me, that's what I'm drawn to. I'm not drawn to these girls on Instagram or TikTok that are like so aesthetically pleasing. I'm like, I don't care if you're making $1 million a month. I want to see the grit. I want to see the grind. I want to see the nights where you're like on the floor, like crying your heart out, like talking to God. Like that's what I want to see, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like something that even like to this day I'm still working on. Recently, since being here in Bali, I was like, I've always shared like the ups and downs. I've like made sure to be as transparent as I can in terms of social media and like what I'm going through, as much as I was at least at the time willing to admit to my own self, because sometimes we hide stuff from our own selves or whatever. But even since being here in Bali, like I had like a point of reflection where I've been on social media for so long, but I always kind of struggled like the way I talk now, like for example, right now during this podcast or to friends or to my family was always just slightly different than how I was showing up online. And there's almost like a thin veil between me and like my content. And I realized that I was still trying to like perform in
Mm.
some sort of capacity for the masses, for others, to look good for whatever sort of algorithm or whatever like that. And I was like, I literally cannot do that anymore. I've grown to a certain extent now that I'm like, whatever way that I am is the way that I'm going to show up, and whatever like changes and ups and highs and lows that I go through, that's what I'm going to share, because that's what people connect with the most. They want to see, again, like you said, you crying on the floor, you falling over. I've talked about how I've literally tripped in a hole here in Bali taking a selfie. Like I share those little things so that people know that I am not this like picture perfect thing that they can't achieve. I'm someone just like everyone who follows me who's going through some sort of growth, some sort of change in their life. I'm also doing that at the same time as they are doing it. And so they can see how fast it actually is that you can change your life in a day, in a week, in a month, in 3 months, in a year, whatever it may be. Because so many of us have this notion of it's going to take forever. It's going to take me like 5 years to get to where I want to be. But if you start doing things now, if you start shifting your mind now, it's going to, happen so much faster. And so that's what I make sure to show up online as this version that, shares, my dating life now in Bali apparently is something that people want to know, like all of this stuff. And because they have seen that journey, they have seen me talk about my relationship in the past and how that relationship was literally the catalyst of like what brought me here and the life I am living now.
There is this level of depth that I have seen you tap into over the past few years, and I am a girl that loves depth. Like, nothing about me is like surface level. I'm just like, I can't do it. And not to say that it was bad before, but I remember when you were posting your Trader Joe's grocery hauls and all of that. And now, like, you're talking about mindset and identity shifts and all of that. So I want to go back to when we first met, when you were living the Miami life. We had our reading. Was that the first time you had done something like that, or had you ever dabbled into personal development practices? Like you a few times have told me, "Oh my gosh, this has changed my life," and I would love to just hear like kind of your take on it.
Yeah, so I had for example, during COVID as well, so during like the start of 2020, I had a lot of time on my hands. I was never a reader. My sister, I have a younger sister, she used to fall asleep reading every night, all the time. I could never be forced to pick up a book. But as you grow older and stuff like that, she put away reading, and during COVID, I got bored. And so during COVID was when I first started kind of like a very mini personal development journey compared to like what it's grown into now. And I started reading, I got on Book Talk, and it's like, read this book, The Psychology of Money, read this book, Atomic Habits, and all of these things. And so that's when my personal development journey had kind of started. And then I've also always been very spiritual. My mom is very spiritual. She was a yoga teacher and all of this stuff. She kind of opened my mind to, more things than just certain avenues and whatever, certain ways of thinking. And when you reached out to me, I had already moved to Miami. I had already been in Miami. And in Miami, I thought it was going to be this huge, fun, exciting lifestyle. I thought it was going to be this major change. I thought the person that I had been with, my ex-boyfriend, was going to be the person that I was going to be with, type of thing. And I soon realized it wasn't working that way. And so I focusing on myself, basically. And so when you reached out to me, that was the first time I'd ever heard about human design. That was the first time I'd ever heard about, how you can figure out more about your body based on your like birth chart and all of this stuff. And so I was a little nervous. I was like, okay, like what is this? I've never heard of this. But at the same time, you like piqued my curiosity in terms of, okay, I can find out more about myself, and I want to learn more about myself and how I am. And during our call and all of this stuff, you called me out to a T, and I didn't realize that that would have been possible. I thought it was going to be like this fluffy thing of like, oh, like maybe this, like whatever, this could stick or whatever. But every single point that you had made during that call hit me to like my core, and you like called me out even on things that I didn't even realize. And that really helped me focus a lot more in terms of how I should go about living my life and how I should go about, career wise and speaking for myself in terms of like the things that I take on. I was always someone, and I've mentioned it recently, who adds a lot to my plate because I always want to be doing things and I never finish things. I would always start and I would never finish. And I always hated that about myself, but that's just that's just who I am. And that's just part of like my human design and how I'm able to start things easily. I don't necessarily need to finish everything, but by starting all of these things can open up other avenues to other things that I'm interested in. And I used to think it was a flaw of mine of doing that, but I realized it's not a flaw at all. And you were able to kind of, explain the reasoning behind all of that. And I honestly think that call was probably like another mini catalyst of pushing me out of my comfort zone even more and like figuring out more about myself and personal development and my journey in and of itself.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy to hear. Sometimes I forget, right? Because we just like so much time has passed, and you and I are both high achievers in the sense of we're always working towards something. So to even go back and to hear how impactful that session was for you. I mean, girl, I was just starting off. Like I was just reaching out to people left and right, like, can I read your chart? Can I whatever? And it's so cool to hear how that has been such a catalyst for you. So thank you for sharing that. And on the same note of living in Miami, so you're in Miami, you're doing the health coaching at the same time that you're in your corporate job. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's a lot. And you're podcasting and you have Four Better Days Club, right? You have all this stuff.
Mhm.
How
All
are
of it.
how are you doing all of it? Like how?
Uh, I don't know. I was burnt out. I was posting at that time. I was posting on TikTok like 2 to 3 times a day. I was posting every day on Instagram. I, yeah, I had 3 Instagram accounts. I had my personal one, my podcast Instagram, and the For Better Days Club. So I was constantly posting on all these things, as well as TikTok, recording for my podcast, signing up clients, selling my course or like my coaching one-on-one program, working a full-time job. I am very luckily someone who is very type A. So that helps me a lot. I'm very much someone who thrives off of a schedule and having like a to-do list and all of that. So that's the only reason I was able to manage all of that. But at the same time, I wasn't able to give anything my full 100% focus and energy. And that's why I burned out. If you're recording things I had no systems in place, honestly, at that point either. Every day I was recording basically the videos that I was posting for that day. And so I was always on and always thinking and never was able to relax. And it caused a lot of burnout. I went through a lot of periods in Miami where I just kind of had to stop posting. And that's why I realized, okay, I can't take on this much. I've closed down like the podcast Instagram account. I was like, I'll just promote it on my regular one. I closed down the nutrition coaching. I took a step back from social media for like 6 months in Miami just because you want to do something so badly, but you have no energy to do it because I thought rest was bad. I've always thought until recently, I've really started shifting this whole mindset behind resting. But I used to think if I rest, I'm lazy. If I rest, I'm falling behind. If I'm resting, I'm not doing enough. And so I always wanted to do more and more and more. And that's why I got to a point where my plate was overflowing. But yeah, I don't know how I did that. It definitely wasn't sustainable. I don't recommend anyone to do all of that at once. Or if you do have systems in place to help you out, so you're not always recording, editing, uploading, commenting, or whatever 24/7.
Yeah, it's a lot. And I think unless you're in it, you don't get it. Like, I can't even tell you. And I've really let this go over time, but I used to get so angry at like my friends who wouldn't like my posts and just like people. I'm like, you don't realize how long this one tiny post on Instagram takes. And then multiply that times all the other stuff that you're doing. It just, I mean, you have to really want it.
No, 100%. I used to get a little annoyed too. And my parents, for example, they're my biggest supporters. And they would just like heart or like your post or whatever. I was like, can you please comment? I was like, can you just comment something? It's going to help me so much. I said, I'm over here like breaking down about all this stuff on my to-do list. It's like the least you could do is take 10 seconds to just put a comment. And so now they still do it. And it's the cutest little thing. My mom, like on all of my posts, she just puts like little hearts or whatever. But yeah, unless you're in it, you don't get it. I think you have to be slightly psychotic to want this stuff so badly, or at least to want a life. And not even in terms of social media. If anyone out there is like wanting to start their own business, for example, you have to want it so badly because that's the only reason why you're going to keep going and keep pushing forward. If I didn't want a better life for myself this badly, I would have stayed in my corporate job and just sucked it up and been fine, climbing the corporate ladder or being miserable, working 9 to 5 every single day for the next 30 so years or whatever.
Right. And I think it takes not the right person because I believe that everyone can activate this power within you, but like there has to be this connection that you have with yourself and this drive to want to live this rich, fulfilling life. I mean, even though I've always known that I want to speak to large audiences, whether that's offline or online, I'm like, I have a message to share and I have gifts and I want to use those gifts in everyday life. So whatever I need to do to be able to not only activate that power, but to like make sure that I'm using these gifts in real time, like you just got to do it.
No, 100%. Your why has to be so deeply ingrained with you in order for you to do it. Because if your why is just, oh, I want to do this to make money, you're going to falter a lot. That's not a reason within you. You have to like, why, like, what is the reason within you? I want to help people get out of their comfort zones because funny enough, I used to be, and I share this all the time, I used to be the shyest person in the room. All of my teachers, like on every like parent teacher meeting that my parents would go to, would be like, here's such a great student, she's so intelligent, blah blah blah, but she never speaks. She never speaks up. She's very quiet, she's very shy, very much kept to herself. And at home, funny enough, I was the complete opposite. But in any sort of public setting, I never spoke up. My younger sister, I couldn't even be coerced into going up to, for example, in Chick-fil-A or whatever, asking for ketchup. I
Wow.
had to send my younger sister to ask for ketchup on my behalf. Hey, can I have some ketchup or whatever? And so that's my why. I want to help people break out of their shells and their comfort zones and feel confident enough in their voice to ask for ketchup or to like start a business or to become a CEO, whatever it is that they want. I want to empower them to do that because having the ability to like speak your own voice and like speak your own thoughts and your own desires is so powerful. And I don't want anyone to like keep themselves stuck and shrunk, because even though I've changed and I've evolved and all of that, in my relationship in my last, with my ex who I was living with in Miami, I even shrunk myself then too. And I've had to like come out of that cycle and that funk and that, smaller version of myself to be now who I am,
Right.
more confident, more talkative, more powerful, um, and in every sense of that word of the word.
And the funny thing is, you would never get that impression coming to your social media, which I think actually a lot of people who do social media, and I've met a ton of them, are super shy in person, but they're so extroverted online because to them, it's an outlet. But I love that for you, you've been able to really work through that. And now you get to be, an extroverted person online, but also offline. So, I want to talk about this huge change that you decided to make. So you're living in Miami with your boyfriend, you're doing all of these things. I'm sure that, you're having some level of success, but you're feeling super burnt out. You decide to leave Miami and the relationship, move back in with your parents. Like, was there one thing that happened that made you want to make this huge change, or was it like a ripple effect of multiple things?
It was definitely a ripple effect of multiple things. For example, let me back up a little bit more. I've always wanted to live outside of the US ever since I was little. You could ask anyone in my family, any of my friends, ever since I was of the age of like 5. I always said, I want to live abroad. I want to move abroad. And so I studied abroad in school because I wanted to kind of get a taste for that. Growing up, we used to go to Mexico every summer. My family's from Mexico. So I kind of got that taste 4 5 months out of the year I was living in Mexico. And with my ex-boyfriend, we actually met when we were studying abroad in Spain. And so one of our goals was to move to Spain or to move abroad in general. And we got into travel vlogs on YouTube, and we are like, oh, Bali sounds really great. Bali sounds really cool. We're watching all of these vlogs, and I was like, okay, we need to do this. We only wanted to stay in Miami for 1 year, and after a year, we wanted to move abroad, whether it be Spain, whether it be Bali, whether it be, trying to be travel vloggers. That's like an avenue I almost started at one point also. And I was ready. I said, I'm ready. I'm doing everything this next year, so that I can, go full time with social media. At that point, I thought I would go full time with the nutrition coaching too. I said he just really needed to get all of his ducks in a row so that he could make that jump too at the end of the year. And unlike me, he wasn't very he didn't push himself as much as I was pushing myself. I really wanted it. My why was so deeply ingrained. I don't think his was as aligned with mine at that time. And so we ended up staying another year because he needed more time and whatnot. And I said, okay, after this year, no matter what, we're not staying in Miami. We're leaving, whether it be a new city, whether it be a new country, whether we leave our jobs and whatever. And so again, I was doing everything that I could to do that. And I realized even though he was pushing me forward in the sense that because of him, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone. Because of him, I started, doing things alone. I started going to coffee shops alone. I couldn't do anything alone. And I had this realization. One of the biggest realizations was I felt more alone when I was with him than when I was with myself. And so that was what helped me realize I can do things by myself and feel more happy and more fulfilled than if I'm just stuck by his side. And that was the reasoning that made me, okay, I can't do this. He's actually holding me back from the things that I want to do. And so he, funny enough, unknowingly made the suggestion of what if we moved home with our parents to save up some money so that we could do this. And our parents, we grew up, funny enough, 2 hours away from each other. So we're like, okay, yeah, that's fine. We can do like a mini long distance. But the second he brought up, like, hey, let's move back home, I knew that that was my out. I knew, okay, the second we move home, this relationship is no longer. And that's when I moved with my parents. And so it had been a lot of things. It had been him and I not really working out. We weren't really seeing eye to eye anymore. We didn't really want the same things. We've kind of, we parted. We each took our own branches of the tree. And really just my own knowing of I want something so much more than just living and working my corporate job. And so I made the plan of, okay, I'm going to save as much money as I can this next year living with my parents. Luckily, they are godsends that they didn't charge me rent. I was barely having to pay anything at their house. They treated me like their little princess again. They were just happy that I was home with them 24/7. And so I was able to save basically all of my paychecks that I made over the last year at my corporate job. And that's what made me, at the end of it, it's been almost 10 months now that I've left the corporate world, which seems just like yesterday. I was working, 9 to 5, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, so it was a lot of things that kind of led to it. But it was really this knowing within myself that I am not happy in my relationship, in my job, or in the life that I was living. It wasn't the life that I had envisioned for myself. And I knew I had to do whatever I needed in order to get there. And I would jump through whatever obstacles and take whatever leaps I needed so that I could feel happy and fulfilled doing whatever it was that, my heart really desired, to be cliche.
That story is so amazing, and obviously I did not know the details of that, and it just is such a true testament that literally everything happens for you for a reason, and even though that relationship did not work out, like you learned how to be this almost like not even fiercely independent, like a soft independent woman and trust yourself. And a question that I have for you that I get a lot from women and especially my clients is how do you learn how to trust that inner knowing? Because for a lot of women, it's rooted in trauma, or I just don't know if I should follow it because I should follow this instead. So, how did you learn how to really not only just acknowledge your intuition and that knowing, but really trust in it and follow it?
Yeah, so many of us suppress our intuition, and it's basically based off of everything that we do leading up. So if you have this inner knowing of like, okay, everyone knows, what do you want for dinner? Whenever somebody asks you, like, what are you craving? Deep inside, oh, I want pasta versus pizza, or I want sushi instead of burgers or whatever. You kind of know inside, but every time you choose against your inner knowing, you're actually shrinking these neural pathways between your mind and your gut, your mind and your body. And so now your body doesn't know and doesn't really understand, like, okay, is this intuition, this gut feeling, is it true or is it false? Because you keep choosing against it. You keep choosing what other people want. You keep choosing things that, aren't aligned with you, or for example. And so I would play that game within myself type of thing. Okay, if I were to flip a coin right now, heads is one decision, tails is another decision. If I were to flip that and see a coin land, what side do I intuitively know that I want it to land on? And so I would ask myself, like, about my relationship. I would ask myself all these questions about my relationship because I just felt I had been in it for 5 years. I just felt it was normal, to not be happy, not be satisfied, all of this stuff. And so I would ask myself these little questions all the time to kind of build up that trust within myself of, am I happy? Am I not happy? Am I, putting up a front because this is what it should be, or is there really more to life? If I leave this relationship, like all of these little things, and it really helps strengthen the intuition I had with myself and my gut feelings and all. I say trust your gut 100%. Even your gut is giving you these signs to go for it, and you might interpret them as, oh no, I shouldn't do that, like I'm feeling butterflies because I'm scared and it's nerve-wracking, but that's actually a sign that you're going down the right path. It should be scary, because if you don't feel any fear, then it's not the right thing. You're supposed to be scared to take the jump, to take the leap, to make the next bold choice or whatever it may be. I was terrified when I quit my job. My hands were literally shaking. I was like prepping for my meeting to tell my managers that I'm quitting, and I was shaking. And I could have easily like doubled down and like sucked it up and not quit, just been like, oh, like, hey, can I get a raise or something like that? But I was like, no, I'm supposed to feel scared right now. I'm supposed to not know, it's a lot of it is also tied to the fear of the unknown. If you're in a stable corporate career, the next step. You're going to move up the ladder. You're going to become a manager. You're going to one day have teammates under you. When you take the scary step, your gut feeling, which your intuition knows you want you to follow, that's when it's okay. That's when you waver, but that's when you should actually go for it. That's when you should actually take that jump and, follow your intuition and just ask yourself those little questions. I tell my clients, okay, create almost like this imaginary treasure box of evidence. And every time you work in favor of like that gut feeling or that in favor of your intuition, just kind of store it in this treasure box of evidence. One of my clients lacks a lot of confidence, and that's something that she wants to work on. And so I said, every time you act in a way that's confidently aligned with you, whether it's like taking charge at work, speaking up in terms of a friendship dynamic, setting boundaries with a significant other. I said, put it in this imaginary treasure box of evidence. And that's going to show you later on when you're kind of wavering, when you're like, oh, I don't know if I should trust this gut feeling. You kind of open this up and you're like, I have 30 different examples of evidence back here that prove that my intuition and my gut feelings are true and I should follow it. And it proves this story that I am a confident person, or I am someone who can set boundaries, or I am someone who can, take the leap or whatever it may be. Like, it's all your evidence of you following your intuition. So you have to start small, like baby steps, obviously. You don't necessarily have to quit your job and move to Bali, but starting small definitely helped me lead up to quitting my job and moving to Bali, something that seemed really big for other people, but I had enough trust with myself and I knew I could follow my intuition to understand that this was like the path I needed to go down.
Yeah, there is this saying that I like to just preach about, whether it's online with friends, with clients. I'm like, practical magic, that it's not just in the mind and okay, that like imaginary treasure box. It's like writing it down and voice noting, and like you need to have something tangible and physical because we do live in a 3D reality. And something that I really have loved about witnessing your own journey is like there is this beautiful connection that you have with trusting your gut and then acting on it. Because I find that a lot of women, especially, I'm sure you see this with your clients, it's like, I can feel this, I can know this, but for some reason, there's a strong disconnect from me knowing it and then me doing it. And I think you just have been like truly the living example of trusting that knowing, and also going back to years ago saying that I want to move to Bali and having that manifest years later in such a different way. Like, you are someone that shares a lot about identity shifts and not waiting for the perfect moment. So, like for you, what did it take? Did you have a hard timeline of I'm spending a year at my parents and then I'm going to Bali? Like, what did you internally and physically have to change about your reality in order to make that big leap?
Yeah, so I basically had almost like a timeline. So at work I had a project and we were having rollouts and implementations. I was a consultant for the US government, which is so different than what I'm doing now. But we were doing these like huge implementations, going to military bases across the US and like implementing software basically. And so I had that calendar. And I knew that I did not want to go to this one specific site that was in September of 2024. It was going to be a shit show, basically. We all knew this, and I did not want to be sent there because anytime we went on these work trips, you were basically working 24/7. You started at like 6 a.m., and we wouldn't get home until like 8 p.m. or anything like that. And so that was my kind of like deadline. And unfortunately, that one got pushed. Like, it kept getting pushed. So I kept saying, okay, like one more month, I can save a little bit more money. And then it came to a point where you can always push everything. Just like the project at work, just like everything in life, I could continue saying one more month, one more month, one more month. I experienced that. I only wanted to be in this job for 2 years before like bouncing to another corporate job. And I ended up staying for 4. And so that was my deadline. Once they kind of fixed that schedule, I said, no matter what, I have to quit in August. So I'm not sent to this place. And then in my reality and like within myself and stuff like that, I had to be comfortable with knowing, okay, if this doesn't work out, I can still come back home. At least I'm giving it a shot. I have enough. I'm very financially savvy and aware. That's something my dad ingrained in me when I was 15 and I started my first job as a cashier at a grocery store. 50% of my paychecks back then went into my savings account that I could not touch, basically. And so I knew I had enough money to live off of for a year comfortably without stress and stuff like that. But that was something I still had to work on. Like, you're so used to getting paychecks every 2 weeks. And so I had to become understanding that that's not going to happen for a little bit. At least I needed to be okay with the unknown. If things don't work out, I can go home. And people at work, they're like, oh, you can always come back. And I knew, I was like, yeah. And if nothing happens, if it doesn't work out, I can be back in 6 months. no. I was like, no matter what, I cannot go back. So I have to change my entire mindset and my entire thought process to make sure that I don't go back. And it's been 10 months and I don't even miss it. I don't look forward to ever going back. I will never be going back. But yeah, I had to change how I go about thinking and doing things because this life isn't structured. It's not a 9 to 5. I don't clock in at 9. I'm not giving daily tasks of like what I have to do at work and stuff like that. And so I had to be fine and learn to be more okay with the unstructuredness of this sort of life and figure out a structure of my own, and really just be confident in my own decision makings and not have to continue to look for the external validation of others, like of my friends, of my parents, of like colleagues of mine, of like, am I doing a good job? Like, what do you guys think or anything like that? I had to just be so fiercely aware of myself and happy with what I was doing and validated my own thoughts, needs, emotions, and whatnot, so that I could do this. But yeah, it's as simple as just basically taking the horse, grabbing it by the reins, and just going off into the sunset and just, pursuing that as long and as much as you can. And if you have to get off at some point, you get off and then you can go back if you need to. But at least, again, like we've said, at least you took the chance on yourself. At least you tried, because you never know what could happen if you don't try. Eh, if you try this one thing, it could completely change your life for the better. But if you never tried, then you might be stuck in your corporate office and be miserable, wishing and hoping that you could take that chance. And especially if we're in our 20s, I think it's the best time to try and start over and over and over again, no matter how many times you fail or have to get back up or have to embarrass yourself or anything like that. It's all worth it, in the long run, I believe.
I could not agree more. And I'm just a few months away from turning 30. And there are so many incredible things that I did in my 20s, but also a lot of things that I was not able to accomplish. But I'm so proud of myself for putting myself out there. And it's funny because sometimes we do these things like moving back home with our parents, to the outside world. They may look at you and be like, oh my gosh, she was living alone, living the life in Miami with her boyfriend, so much independence and freedom. So to some people, that may look like taking a step back, but it's actually not because you know, I know that you can relate to this. We're always moving forward, and you had that vision and you had that goal. And to you, it's like, okay, I'm going to go home and be treated like a queen, which
Yeah.
I mean, I have similar parents that like just want to support me in these big, bold visions for my life. And like whatever they need to do to help me do that, they will do. And I think that is truly invaluable. So the fact that could almost like put your ego aside and say like, I'm giving this up because I have this greater plan. And now you're like, yeah, all of you are saying, sure, I could come back, but you're not going back. No, no, no.
No. And it's crazy. I was for like a split second, I was embarrassed about the fact that I would be moving back in with my parents because
Get
yeah,
that.
it looks like a step back to other people. Like, wow, like you went from living in a high rise in a big major city to now living in the suburbs again in your childhood bedroom. When I posted about my journey of me moving back in with my parents, the amount of people that like commented or like messaged me saying, I've been wanting to do this, but I've been so scared of what other people will think. That's why I'm like, that's why I share everything, because I never know and you never know who is thinking similar things and like who is wanting to pursue similar things. And I told every single one of them, I said, do it. It's not a step back, it's a step forward. It's helping you. It helped me rest and realign myself and get more clarity on what I wanted. And it helped me, pursue my personal development journey even further, because I had to change my whole mindset of like, I'm no longer going to be a corporate person. I'm going to be like an entrepreneur. And yeah, I honestly think if you need to, I think it's one of the best decisions you can make. Save money if you need to, if that's the reason you're doing it. If you're doing it to like leave a situationship or a boyfriend, if you're doing it because you want to, get farther in your life, I recommend it to every single person because it's just helping you realign. It's not, there's no step backs. It's just step forwards. It's just a mini break per se.
Totally. I lived with my parents, I have lived with friends, and it is such a privilege to have that safe space where you can hit the reset button and reboot and focus on yourself and be taken care of. And I am really exploring this in my own self and my own identity is shifting from being this hyper independent, lone wolf, independent masculine woman. And now I'm like, oh, it feels really nice to be taken care of. So I can focus on me and not feel this pressure and anxiety. And yes, to the outside world, it may look like a step back, and it may, your ego may take a little bit of a hit and you may feel embarrassed, but look at where you are now. I'm sure that there are so many women. I mean, I didn't know that you were 27, and I'm just like in awe of you and your journey and like the life that you're living. And I know that so many women are looking up to you, even if they aren't telling you to your face.
Yeah. No, it's such a great feeling. And yeah, I'm also super hyper independent. And that's the new part of my journey that I'm focusing on, is to soften even more, to allow people to help me. I actually just hired people in my business. I've been doing everything on social media alone for the last 5 years. And so I'm like hiring people to help me out so that I don't feel bad asking for help, and speaking up for like your own needs, and all of that stuff is so important. And that's the next part of my journey that I'm excited to kind of dive a little bit deeper in and see what changes when I soften up and kind of get out of that super hyper masculine part of me as well.
Yeah. Well, the beautiful part of this is that you're in it, right? I think a lot of times people think, well, I'm not that yet. And I'm like, but you're working towards it. So you are. Like you're already there.
Yeah.
You're already her. So what have been like the three biggest changes since you've been living in Bali for the past 10 months, you said?
I've been in Bali for the last 7, but I quit 10 months ago because I had a 2-month stint in LA before I came to Bali.
That is,
But yeah, the three biggest changes would be, I was scared of being alone, but one thing about solo traveling is you're actually never alone. And not even from like the second I got here have I been alone. I've been surrounded by so many people. Number two is you can it's so crazy how fast you can connect with people if they're aligned with you and stuff like that. I have friends, I love them. I love all my friends back at home, but I have friends that I only knew and met here for like 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And you can connect so fast. Like I have deep, immense friendships with people I've known for, you know, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, compared to people that I've known for like a decade or so. And so I've cultivated so many friendships, and I've learned a lot from all of these friendships and acquaintances that I've made here in Bali. And then the third one would be really just, again, kind of going back to like the why, being so in tune with your why and taking every step possible to make sure that why comes into fruition, and that you're living that thing. I really, when I first got here, I was kind of all over the place. I was bouncing around, too busy making friends, wasn't really focused on everything, but that allowed me to reset and get more clear on my why. And since January, I've been really very head in the game of, okay, building my business, becoming an entrepreneur, and continuing to go all in on myself. So yeah, you're never alone. It's so easy to make friendships that are aligned when you're aligned with yourself and like your wants, needs, desires, and values. And then so much can change in such a short period of time. I've gone through like 7 different phases of myself within. I say every month in Bali is like a new version of me, and every version of me that I've made here is a better version of me. So this next step that I take, now that I'm going to France and Spain for the summer, I'm going to evolve into an even bigger and better version of myself, and continue growing every single day.
that is amazing. And it sounds like the theme of Bali has been connection, not only just connecting to all of these different parts of yourself, but also connecting to other people. And I believe that. I mean, to me, always like the truest testament of someone that I know that I am going to have in my life forever is if I can meet you for the first time and we sit and we talk for like 2 to 3 hours. If I can't do that, you're not going to be a forever person in my life. And like the fact that you can establish these very in-depth relationships in just 2 or 3 weeks compared to relationships that you've had for a decade, just it not only goes to show how deeply self-aware you are, but like when you're in alignment, things happen quickly. But also, with that being said, it's like I loved that you mentioned taking space to just be in Bali and make friends and live your life, because I think sometimes not only when you're an entrepreneur and a creative, but when you're also a woman, it's like you're expected to do everything. And it's like, let me just live and be. Soft life.
Yeah. Literally, when I first got here, I felt a little bad because the whole reason I came here was to start a business, was to start, being more of an entrepreneur. And from like November to January. I was just going out, having fun, exploring the islands and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I needed that. I just worked my ass off in corporate for 4 years. I needed this break. And so I took it almost as like a little summer break, even though it was like winter back at home or anything like that. But I needed it to kind of take that rest and take a break and breathe and not always be on, and be a little bit more type B and not so high strung type A, planner oriented or anything like that. And I think that phase, which is so necessary for everything that came after that, to help me, okay, now it's time to focus. Now it's time to work. Now it's time, I still have fun. I still balance fun, work, play, all of that. I take breaks to go to the beach. My friends and I, we do Pilates, we'll go out. I think balance is so important and so necessary. And without that, I didn't have balance when I was living in Miami. Clearly, my plate was overloaded. And so now I prioritize having balance and actually having a life, because I didn't, leave corporate to not have a life anymore, because I didn't have a life in corporate. So I want to make sure I have a life and I enjoy everything that I'm doing. And yeah, I think that's one of the most powerful lessons, is taking rest is so necessary in order to refill your battery. And so then you can pour for yourself from a full battery, from a full cup, and give to others with a full cup as well, and not just always working off of empty.
That rest is just space. And I loved what you said about that because a lot of people feel guilty and shameful for resting, but I'm like, resting doesn't mean that you're just taking naps all day. Resting is just being, enjoying life and going to the beach and going to Pilates and hanging out with your friends. And ironically, when you give yourself ample space and you really start to understand this is the power of human design and working smarter, not harder, is understanding like, oh, those things give me energy to show up so I can become a mindset coach, so I can give to my community movement, so I can be this content creator that I want to be. But a lot of times we try to just like push and hustle and like, no, I have to do all this first and then I can rest. But it's like, no, babe, it's actually the other way around.
Yeah, so much. Rest first, then work. That's what and I prioritize. And so many people are like, oh, I do 2 self-care things a week. I said, I do 2 self-care things a day minimum.
Minimum.
Whether it's going to coffee and just like reading or journaling, or, listening to a podcast, whatever it may be. It's like you need to rest every single day. And yeah, rest is not just taking naps. It could be if you need that, if it's necessary for you, but rest is giving back to yourself in whatever way best fits you. And yeah, that's one of the most important things that you could do for yourself to get you to your next level and stage in your life.
100%. How are you feeling about your life right now and just like what season are you in?
I am so happy. I can't believe time flies so fast. Honestly, it flies so fast. And I cannot believe I've been here for almost, 8 months. I think it's so crazy, but I'm happy with where I am at in life. I'm happy in this point of my life. I'm not comparing myself to anyone. That was one of the things I was scared of, and I kind of did in the beginning, of like, oh, like what are other people doing, especially here. There's so many entrepreneurs, so many digital nomads, and you talk to people who've been doing this for 5 years, and I'm like, I've been doing this, technically 5 years, but like the coaching stuff and my business really just 6 months. And I'm happy with where I'm at and with where I'm going, and I'm excited for the next season in life of, I'm basically starting over again. I'm leaving everything behind. I've built a home here. I've built a base here. I've built friends here and routines. And now I'm doing the same thing that I did 10 months ago, except now I'm leaving Bali and I'm going to France and to Spain all by myself, and starting new and starting fresh and seeing where that chapter takes me. But yeah, I'm feeling really good and really happy, and honestly just proud. I'm so proud of myself, and I didn't think 6 years ago I would have ever been capable of this. I thought I had to follow that life path. I was going to get married to my ex-boyfriend. We're going to, be miserable together forever. But now I'm happier than ever. And I realize, I'm no longer being held back by someone who doesn't, care for me as much as I care for myself.
The lesson that we have learned today, ladies, is trust your intuition, acknowledge it, and act on it. And I have just loved hearing about your story and really your 20. I mean, you're still in your 20s, so it's like you have built such a solid foundation for yourself. And that's why I think being an outsider, like and witnessing your journey, you're able to thrive and say, yeah, I moved to Bali and I lived here for 8 months and now I'm jetting off elsewhere. And who knows what will come, but I'm open to the unknown because I trust in myself and I'm willing, capable, and able to follow that knowing to wherever it leads me.
Exactly. Yeah, no, and it's so important and so powerful and so exciting because I honestly used to be so fearful of the unknown. I love it.
Oh,
I'm excited. I'm like, what's coming? What's coming my way? Again, you mentioned it earlier. When you're so in alignment with you, things just flow into your life unexpectedly. Like this podcast, I had thought to myself the day before you reached out to me, like, wow, I really want to start talking on my podcast. And then you reached out the next day. It's like, things just come so effortlessly when you're so in tune with yourself, your intuition, your alignment. And yeah, I encourage everyone to do so and everyone to kind of tap into themselves and what they really want and stop just sucking it up because it's comfortable. If it's comfortable, it's kind of boring. And so we need to keep changing and bringing excitement to our lives so we can be living with more fulfillment.
yeah. I'm very interested in your astrological chart. I'm gonna need to look it up
Pull it up.
afterwards. But I have just loved sitting here with you and having this conversation. Is there anything else that you would love to share with the audience? Obviously, I will have all of your links and everything linked down below, but any like last words or like wisdom that you would love to share?
Uh, Words of wisdom is to be so backed in yourself and your vision. Everyone has, a 5 year plan. Everyone has a vision. Everyone has some sort of desire that they want out of life. Follow that no matter where it leads you. If you feel something so deeply, it's probably for a reason. Everything that I have felt so deeply within myself has been for a reason. And so by following that, whatever it may be, whatever goal, dream, or desire that you may have, will lead you to a life, and it might be an unexpected life, but a life that's way more fulfilling to you instead of, we don't have to follow the corporate career. There's so much out there to that. I'm not saying everyone has to quit their jobs, but there's so much out there to that, from that and stuff like that. So follow your intuition, follow your inner knowing, follow your dreams, goals, and desires as far as you can take it. And you will be so happy with the outcome from that.
I could not agree more. And I just want to kind of piggyback on that. If you are feeling stuck in your life, that is why people like Kiara and I are doing what we're doing, right? Because it's not just for us, it's to give you all the permission to do the same. Because I mean, if I could tell and show 20-year-old Rebecca everything that I'm doing now, I would be like, oh my gosh, like I'm just so proud of you for committing to yourself and following your own path, even when it did not make sense to anyone else out there. But luckily with technology and everything that we are exposed to in this world, there are so many people that we just have access to, even if it's just following along their journey on TikTok or social media or listening to a podcast episode. Like, you are not alone, but it is your job to, again, not only just trust in your intuition, but do something about it because we can't do it for you. We can be there as amazing coaches as we are, but like it truly is up to you to take those next steps.
Yes, 100%. I like to say, I'm your guide, I'm your mentor, I'm not God. I can't force you to do anything. You have to do that to yourself.
100%. I say the same. Like, babe, I'm here for you, but like I can't make you do it. Unfortunately, sometimes I wish I could, but I can't. So, okay, well, we're
Exactly.
gonna end that here because Kara has to go to Pilates. She was such a trooper and was recording this with me at 6 a.m. in Bali. So we love her for that. I will again link everything down below, but thank you so much for being here. It has been so nice to catch up with you and to have this conversation.
Yes, thank you for having me. I love this so much, and I'm so glad we were able to catch up again.
Likewise. Alrighty. Well, we are going to end this here. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast, and I will see you in the next episode.